Hey guys, and welcome to Faewood. So this is a little mini cupboard of curiosities that I created to put in my backdrop. This was part of my haul from the Hunted Collectibles and Antiques shop, and I decided to paint this with my oil rubbed bronze. It was a white little cupboard and it had glass on the front. I took the glass out and I did that to spray paint this, and I used a mixture of black and oil rubbed bronze because, well, I ran out of oil rubbed bronze. I got a few little droplets and things on there and needed to sand it, but as I was sanding it I realised I was going to repaint it, but I really liked the way it looked with this really worn, rustic finish, so I left it as is. And then I buffed it with my bronze metallic wax. You've seen me use this in other projects before. It's an Art Alchemy wax. I really enjoy this one. It's a nice colour to the bronze. So I didn't cover every little bit with the bronze because I still wanted it to look black but with little metallic flares to it, I guess. So I just use a tiny bit of my finger at a time and really wipe it in and spread it out a lot, so, and just on, the edges of things. I did decide to put a little bit in the background, as you can see there, and it was a bit easier to do that with a brush, so I just use a tiny bit on the brush and sort of dry brushed, I guess, in a way, but with the wax. And that actually worked out really nicely, but you just want a tiny little bit. Then I mixed up some shellac, and this is to put on my skull. Alright, so I've got some bugs that I got from National Geographic shop, which is a shop we have here in Australia that has a lot of science related things for kids. And these are really cool oversized bugs. I got some mini bugs and mini snakes, and these were from Target. They're only $3, so great price for a ton of little plastic bugs and frogs and things. I have a little skull that I got for Halloween, so if you've watched that video you would have seen me get this skull, but I figured one or two skulls in the backdrop might look good, so I may even pinch a couple more. We'll see how we go. And I grabbed a couple of snakes from Reject Shop, and they were really cheap. This was $2 and this one $3. I've just had a quick look at them in the backdrop. They sort of blend in a bit, so I may end up putting a little bit of colour on the scales or something like that to make them stand out. But that's what I've got so far. We'll see how that goes. Yeah, so this had the oil rubbed bronze sprayed on it, sanded back, a little bit of matte black spray paint as well because I ran out of oil rubbed bronze, and I had a few bubbles on it, so I sanded it to get those off, but then I liked the way it looked really old, so I left it like that. And then I've used this wax rub, the Art Alchemy wax rub in bronze, to buff, edges and stuff. Not the whole thing, but, little bits here and there. So that's what we've got so far, and I'm going to try and fill up these spots with bugs or skulls or something or other, so we'll see how that goes. So there was all sorts of bugs in this pack, and I had fun pulling them all out and having a look at what I had. I had a look to see if some of them fit in the little shelves, but they were mostly too big I could probably jam a couple of them in, but I didn't really like that look, so I decided to open the smaller container of bugs, and I figured this might be better for this particular thing. This was such good value. I couldn't believe how many bugs I got for $3. So my little eyeballs that I got from the mythical markets were perfect for this little cupboard of curiosities, and I'll put a little card in the top here for if you want to see the mythical markets haul that I got. There was some fantastic stuff there. So the shellac that I've mixed up, I've put with some methylated spirits. It does take a bit of time for the flakes to start to dissolve. I basically wanted to use the shellac to put an aged, sepia sort of colour on the skull. You could potentially use an acrylic paint as long as you're, not too heavy with the acrylic paint, because you'll just paint straight over the skull entirely. But yeah, I thought the shellac might look nice over the top. And I decided to try it on a couple of bugs as well, just to dull down some of these very bright colours. It looked okay, but it wasn't really noticeable, so I didn't bother too much with it. And I did also find that a second layer of the shellac didn't work so well on the skull. It started to take off the previous layer of shellac. So one layer seems to be about the sweet spot. I think after that you're probably best to go in with some acrylic paint if you wanted to actually darken it up any further. Now I'm trying to make a lot of this backdrop actually functional as well, because I do want to store a lot of craft bits and pieces, and so I decided to put some bottles of sequins, beads and gemstones in here. The bottles that I have, they're from a whiskey advent calendar that my husband had, and in a separate video to this I'll probably show you some of the behind the scenes preparation and planning for this backdrop, where I'm cleaning out all of those bottles. They fit in some of the sections here, but not the top and bottom. It's only the middle two shelves that these bottles fit, so I was sort of stuck just using those. But you know what, I love the way this ended up looking. You can put all sorts of things in here, anything old, vintage, anything that looks a bit taxidermy or bugs. It's just limited by your imagination. So I hope you enjoy this little small segment, and there'll be more videos to come. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and I'll see you next time in Faewood. Bye, guys.